The year was 1871, and the West was still notoriously wild, when four horsemen rode south out of Wichita on an urgent mission. Intercepting a cattle drive headed for Ellsworth, they employed their most persuasive arguments to redirect the herd, securing a thriving industry for our city, along with its place as one of America's most legendary cowtowns. The next year, 14-year-old Louise Caldwell moved to Wichita from New York with her family. After her marriage to Wichita Eagle proprietor Roland Pierpont Murdoch, she would go on to become a highly successful businesswoman and a matriarch of the arts in Wichita. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, Andrew Carnegie was founding the steel business that would establish his enormous fortune and make possible his renowned philanthropy. Of course, the Four Horsemen of Wichita didn't know it at the time, but the rough-and-tumble cowtown commerce that formed much of the city's identity for years to come would eventually be transformed by the cultural enlightenment that would be ushered in by Louise Caldwell Murdoch. And no one could have known that a steel magnate 1,000 miles away would play so pivotal a role in the life of our community as Andrew Carnegie played when he funded Wichita's first public library in 1912. Up to this point in Wichita, as in many communities, access to a library was a privilege granted only by subscription fee. That relative exclusivity was abhorrent to the self-taught Carnegie, who dedicated more than $65 million to establishing free libraries throughout the U.S. and Great Britain. Louise Caldwell Murdoch was equally fervent about the value of reading and the arts. An accomplished interior designer, Mrs. Murdoch was called upon to oversee every detail of the library's design, a charge she faithfully executed until her death, just 3 weeks before the opening of the new library in May of 1915. Replete with its arched entry and lion's head capstone outside, and classical detailing inside, the Wichita Carnegie Library was celebrated as a welcomed coming of cultural age for the city. Mrs. Murdoch commissioned Kansas artist Arthur Covey to create murals depicting the state's history, and Elizabeth Stubblefield to design the stained glass sunflowers that illuminated the rotunda. As the Eagle described it, the city has passed the bread and butter stages and reached the intellectual zone of civilization. A tribute tablet was added to the south wall in 1918 to honor Mrs. Murdoch. The inscription on the tablet reflects the devotion to enlightenment that inspired her life, as well as this final achievement. Over the next 4 decades, the library was a focal point of much of the community's life, growing in both its holdings and patronage. The building also regularly served as an art museum. With more traffic and use, available space became an issue. In the 1950s, the open rotunda was sealed off to expand the second floor. But the growth of the city inevitably overtook the library's capacity. In 1967, a new library was completed across the street, and more than 600 students formed a book brigade to transfer the Carnegie's treasured holdings. The building then took a tour of civic duty, first serving as a municipal court, and then becoming the home of the Wichita Omnisphere and Science Center in 1976. By 2000, however, Exploration Place had eclipsed the Omnisphere, and the city began using the library as a storage facility. Although it was now recognized as a historical landmark, the building was undeniably in need of a caretaker with a passion for its heritage. In 2006, it got one. Just next door, Fidelity Bank was outgrowing the sleek, modern structure it had built 20 years earlier, and the location of the library was ideal to preserve the synergy of Fidelity's various operations. True to their name, Fidelity decided to rebuild the library's interior, honoring Mrs. Murdoch's original design. But the task before them was daunting. Key features like marble columns, chandeliers, and portions of 2 floors had been removed. The murals of Arthur Covey were long since relocated by the city. The original ceilings, with their squared coffers and stenciled beams, hid behind layers of paint and acoustical tile. The stenciling, discovered when a fluorescent light was removed, was carefully replicated by Wichita-based artisan Robert Elliott, whose team performed much of the restoration work. Replicas of the missing columns were rebuilt from architectural plaster to look precisely like the marble originals that surround them. Ironically, the Carnegie successor library provided key photographic evidence of the building as it once was. From this glimpse of the chandelier, for example, craftsmen in Portland, Oregon created replicas that are faithful in every detail. Of course, modern conveniences like central heat and air and current building codes had to be accommodated, while still preserving the 1915 decor. This partition wall was built to provide a conduit for heating and cooling ducts without disturbing the original walls, and an enclosed crosswalk provided a secure passage between the two buildings. Today, the Carnegie Library is once again a proud Wichita landmark. In the lobby, Mrs. Murdoch's memorial tablet has been repositioned to welcome visitors. All the functional appointments necessary to the running of Fidelity's new commercial banking center are carefully designed to blend respectfully into the period architecture. Overlooking the lobby are the new murals Fidelity commissioned to carry forward the Covey tradition. One captures that historic moment when 4 horsemen fearlessly seized the day on behalf of their city. The commercial life that ensued enabled the cultural life that followed. 140 years later, commerce and culture thrive together inside this working monument to the enterprise and enlightenment that continue to forge Wichita's enduring character.